Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Full Moon, Empty Road. Buckle up and grab the snacks as we are going cross country today to San Jose, California. Our destination today is going to be 525 south of Winchester Boulevard to the intricate, incomplete, and most of all infamous Winchester Mansion. We've covered so far one of the most famous sanatoriums in America and one of the most famous haunted colleges in America. Figured now was a good time to go for one of the most famous haunted houses in America. I'm going to start off with a little bit of history about Sarah Winchester and the Winchester Rifle Company. Before I get into it, I want to go ahead and apologize in advance. As a huge fan of the Supernatural series, I'm afraid I'm going to end up tripping over my words and calling her Mary Winchester. If I do end up doing that, I apologize. Sometimes I don't think. Sometimes my mouth works faster than my brain. So we're going to dive right in here. Sarah Lockwood Pardee. She was born in 1939 in one of the summer months. She was born to Leonard Pardee and Sarah Burns in New Haven, Connecticut. So during my research, I couldn't find, be honest with you, other than her birth, I couldn't find anything about her childhood or her, teenage and young adult years, which it looks like she was barely into her 20s by the time she got married. On September 30th of 1862, she married William Wirt Winchester. And by the way, I just want to make sure I did not say that she was born in 1939. She was born in 1839. I can't remember what I said. But yeah, so on September 30th of 1862, she married William Wirt Winchester. William, of course, was the owner of the Winchester Repeating Rifle Company. William and Sarah had one daughter together. Her name was Annie Winchester, and she only lived about 40 days. She died a short time after birth of marasmus. 15 years later, after the death of her daughter, and this took place over the course of about a year, she lost her mother, father-in-law, and her husband. And it is said that William Winchester died of tuberculosis. 5 years after the death of her husband, she purchased a small 2-story farmhouse called Yanata Villa in San Jose. Yanata Villa would later come to be known as the Winchester Mystery House. Maybe it had something to do with her garnering as much wealth as she did, where, she took over on certain aspects of the Winchester Rifle Company after William's death. Just some of the things I've seen that I'd read about that she had purchased after William's death. It kind of looked like, I don't know, maybe she was bored or something. In 1888, she purchased 140 acres of land in Los Altos, California. She also purchased a farmhouse and named it the Winchester Merriman House for her sister and brother-in-law. In the 1920s, very early 1920s, she bought and maintained a houseboat named Sarah's Ark. She kept it in the San Francisco Bay just in case a second biblical flood came. That, I guess, was noted to be one of her big fears, was a second cleansing of the earth in the form of a flood. So, what better way to combat that than to do what the story said and buy an ark? Unfortunately, in 1929, about 6 to 7 years after Sarah had died, the Ark caught fire and was destroyed. Sarah herself died of heart failure September 5th, 1922 in the Winchester house. Upon her death, she was buried in Alta Mesa Cemetery until she did get moved back. She did get moved back home to New Haven. These days, she is, I say these days, like she gets up and moves around more than once. Which I guess technically that first time she got up and moved around wasn't even her decision. But she is now buried next to her husband and her infant daughter in New Haven, Connecticut. Upon her death, the Winchester mansion was left to her niece, who in turn auctioned the place off. I didn't see a lot of information on that part, so I don't know if this was one of those things where her niece, got this as an inheritance and was just like, this is too much for me to maintain. We're gonna auction it off, or it was like, no, there's some bad juju in this place. We're gonna auction it off and let somebody else deal with it. Stories of the Winchester, the mansion, and Sarah have appeared in pop culture due to its rich history and hauntings. There was a musical made called The Haunting of Winchester. It was written by, I don't know if written would be the right word. It was made by Craig Baumler and Mary Bracken Phillips. There was a short opera made by Bertrand Bonello, I'm not really sure how that's pronounced, called Sarah Winchester. And Helen Mirren gave from what I have heard, and we meant to watch this movie this week. We kind of forgot about it. We, had other things to watch, had other things to do. But from my understanding, gave a very commanding performance as Sarah in the 2018 film Winchester. I do intend to give that a watch soon. I think I started it a few months back and thought, well, this, seems pretty promising so far. So, once I get a chance, I'll pitch the idea to Anna and see if she wants to sit down and we'll watch it together. We just haven't gotten to it yet. We're going to go ahead and move to this point into the hauntings of the Winchester Mansion. I just kind of wanted to cover as much of, because there wasn't a lot of history on Sarah, especially before, because she's known as the Winchester heiress, or however they call it, and she was, or the widow of or something. Anyway, so to kind of segue here, we're going to go into the hauntings of the Winchester. The mansion itself saw about 38 years of constant construction. According to a legend, a medium told Sarah she was being haunted by those killed by the Winchester rifle, and the remodels were done to either confuse or appease the spirits that were haunting the place. It's never really been, well, I guess it's never really been, it's just more according to what story you've heard. One of the spirits that supposedly haunts the place is an apparition named Clyde. Workers and guests of the mansion both have stated seeing him either pushing a wheelbarrow in the basement or working on a fireplace in the ballroom. Because of course he's going to be seen in the basement hanging out with a wheelbarrow. A, it's a basement, they're creepy. B, it's a wheelbarrow, and I believe he was a maintenance guy, or like a groundskeeper, something like that. A maintenance worker named Danny, I think, reportedly heard footsteps on the off-limits third floor. And upon investigating, he said to always, whenever he did go up there to the third floor to look for it, the footsteps he would hear were always just in front of him and up one more floor. He, of course, I believe after, went up all the way up to the roof and never found anything. Medium James Van Prague, or Pra, once performed a seance on the premises and stated that Sarah was just beyond enthusiastic about having so many people visit the house. I'm going to touch on that a little bit more later. Just the thought of Sarah being excited about having people, visit this house that she essentially built to live out the rest of her days in. More reclusive than not. Harry Houdini, who at the time set out to debunk haunted mysteries of the world, is said to have believed that there was indeed something supernatural within the walls of the Winchester. Harry Houdini, that's a pretty big name to put a stamp of approval to a place on. That's impressive. Another story states that a man working on a project in a room with many fireplaces called the Hall of Fires was tapped on the back just while he was working in there, and he turned around and no one there. So he went, back to his work, whatever he was doing, and he felt someone push him on the back, like he actually felt a shove that time. And as far as I can tell from that point, he was like, "No, I can go work somewhere else in this place. I don't need to do anything in here in the Hall of Fires today." A tour guide reported hearing a sigh, outside the room Sarah got trapped in during the earthquake of 1906. She heard that sigh during a guided tour and thought she saw a dark figure outside the room. She went out to confront the person but never found anyone. When she left the room, she heard another deep sigh, pretty much right next to her. And for me, that's where you stop doing guided tours. Something's going to be wandering around you sighing all disdainfully and stuff. Either I suck as a tour guide, or you just wish I'd get the hell out of the way. So, that was just a few of the hauntings that I was able to find note of. I kind of thought with this place being as infamous as it is that there would be a lot more stories, but that was just kind of what I found. Excuse me. I will say this episode became more about the Sarah and her tragic life, and less about the home she built. I feel like I talked a lot more about Sarah rather than the house. In truth, and when taking a look at the bigger picture, like I say, this became less about a haunted house and more about a haunted and troubled woman. Sarah lived a life of loss, of heartbreak, of seclusion, of madness. 38 years of construction. 38 consecutive, constant years. Building, rebuilding, adding on. For Sarah to lose so much in such a short amount of time kind of makes you wonder, were the constant additions to this sprawling mansion to maybe quiet the restless spirits within the home? Or maybe the restlessness of her own mind, her broken heart. In the end, I wonder if this was a legacy left behind, or was this a prison? A haunted dying until she's reunited with those she lost. I have an almost 3-year-old daughter, and I've been fortunate enough to watch her grow this far. Annie Winchester didn't even get to see 2 months of life. And honestly, a loss like that is enough to drive even the strongest to the brink. to the brink of madness and just cross that line. I couldn't imagine it. 40 days. It's just, man. And in 1 year, her was it her mother, father-in-law, and husband? Death followed her. So maybe it was fate that she became the wife of the owner of the Winchester, of a rifle company. Because it really does seem like death followed her. At least, it's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. I look back, I couldn't imagine in 1 year losing that many people closest to me. Or that, that would be that close to me. I just couldn't imagine it. And, having a daughter of my own, I couldn't imagine only knowing her for 40 days. I was fortunate enough. She was born right on a few months before COVID hit, and I got to watch her grow for about 2 years. Whereas I was, when she was first born, I was afraid that I wasn't going to, I guess, play as significant as a role because I would be at work all the time. But to know that 40 days is that, and that's all you get. That's, I don't know. That would have broken me too. So the reason behind choosing the Winchester Mansion, I think last weekend, seems like it was Sunday, we were actually going out to pick up some takeout and just, have a quick dinner at home. And I was like, I need to, I can't really just, I've got a few ideas of what I want to write about. And my girlfriend Anna actually said, hey, one I would love to hear you put your voice to is the Winchester Mansion. She said, I don't know, I think it comes from when she was a teenager. She spent some time, I'm not really sure how long, she spent some time in a house which, just from the stories I've heard from her mom, her, and one of her uncles, it would be hard to say that nothing's there. So she was like, this particular haunted place was one that always kind of had a draw for her. So she was like, I'd love to hear you put your voice to that. So I was like, well, there's this week's episode then. So, thanks to her, I was like, hey, I've actually got another episode. I actually really enjoyed digging through this one, digging through the stories and everything, and the history. The history I really enjoyed. So I appreciate you guys stopping in and listening today. I have turned on listener support. So if you enjoy it and you want to maybe, I don't know, buy me an energy drink or something, throw me a bone, if you want to. I have created a new Facebook page. You can just, it's one of those like pages. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I've used Facebook for years, but I've never, ran my own like page. So on top of having a podcast for the first time and this being a new endeavor, by the way, sorry about the frogs. Sorry. They're back again. And they've got a lot to say, as usual. Maybe that's some fourth wall stuff I'm not supposed to be breaking, and just, there's your ambience right there, is these frogs. But no, sorry. They're having a fit. I think I just heard a coyote howl. Anywho, back on the Facebook page. You can find it, Full Moon, Empty Road. And give me a like. I'll share the link to this episode on there, feel free to drop a comment on Facebook, or I will also put a Q&A at the on Spotify for this one. Spotify or Anchor, I would assume. Like I say, I'm still learning about Anchor, learning to use it. But I would assume you can do your comment there. But it'll also be on Spotify, just under the, like if you go to the episode page, just down towards the bottom, it'll have a, leave a reply or something like that, and you can reply to whatever Q&A I put up. You can also drop me a line at fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com, and just, leave me a suggestion what you want to hear next. I've got the next episode lined up. I'm actually writing on it right now. And I think the one following that, I have an idea of what I want to do with it. So if you do leave a suggestion, I will, if it's something I can find enough to really put an episode together with, I will make it. But as of right now, I've got my next two or three lined up. So again, thank you so much for stopping in and listening, and I hope you enjoyed this trip out west to the Winchester Mansion. And let's go home.